Assalamualaikum Warahmatullahi Wabarakatuh. Welcome back to the Melanated Muslimah podcast. It's your favorite revert, Brittany Khadija, and I'm so glad to be back. So today's episode can be heavy for some people who don't like to talk about death, and you can tell by the name of the podcast called The Grave that we're going to be talking about death in this podcast. And I'm going to be honest, I had tried to create multiple outlines for this episode and nothing just felt right to me. So I was like, let me take this as a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to just talk from the heart, because I feel like that's the best thing that you can do when it comes to topics like this. And this topic is something that is talked about often in the Muslim community. It is good for us, like Muslims. I can't remember if it's a hadith or where this comes from, but I heard it in one of the halaqas. I'm not 100% sure if this is like a hadith or whatnot, or just like something that was said in a lecture. Is that we're supposed to remember that in the morning and at night, so we can remember to live our life that is pleasing to Allah, and making sure that our day was pleasing to Him, and also to repent before we go to sleep, because we don't know if we will see the next day. And that is such a beautiful way to live. I know some people may be like, oh my gosh, you have to think about it in the morning, at night. Oh my goodness, isn't that anxiety provoking? No, it's a time for reflection to see how you live and how to make yourself better and how to just do things better for your overall well-being. So before I became Muslim, thinking about death was something that I hardly ever thought about. I don't know, like, I feel like the way I grew up, it's like, oh, when somebody passes away, oh, you know what's coming, they're gonna come, they're gonna die, but like you kind of like push it aside. Once that person's passed away, it's taboo to talk about that person. It's taboo to like bring up your emotions and stuff like that. I don't know if it's just in the Caribbean community. I don't know if other people feel like that as well. And also, like, visiting your loved ones is not something that is told for us to do regularly, even though it's something that you do. In Grenada, there is a holiday called All Saints Day, and that's when people usually go to the graves and clean them and make sure they look nice and stuff like that. I believe that's a holiday that they do. I've never been in Grenada to do that practice. This is Future Brittany here, and what I want to say is I have been to Grenada many times, 9 times, but I have not been to Grenada when they have the holiday All Saints Day, which is popular around the world. I think it may be just a Grenadian tradition to clean graves during this time. I don't know if any other country does it, but I wanted to bring that clarification. And if I sound a little funny, it's because I'm wearing my retainers. But I never really seen it done up here. Like, for example, my grandpa is buried like 3 hours away from my house and like where most of my family has lived. I haven't visited him since he passed away. And I had a childhood best friend that passed away when we were younger. And I said, oh, when I was like 12, because we were 12 when she passed away. It was the first funeral I ever been to. I like remembered like the area. I put a mental note in my mind. I don't remember it per se, but I have like some images of like where she was buried, what the section is called. And I said, oh, for me to come and visit her. Never visited her. After my grandmother passed away, I think we went to go visit her grave once. Since after I went to Grenada, it's not something that you do often. Even though like this person was a part of your life, it's like something you're not talked about. Even like I have an aunt who passed away. Even like bringing her up, it's like a taboo topic and stuff like that. And that's basically how I view death. It's like, oh, it's inevitable. It's going to come. I'm a Christian. As long as I repent for my sins, I'm going to heaven, you know? But it's funny how 2 things made me want to run to Islam or to learn more. The first thing that made me want to learn more about Islam is my mama's friend B inviting us to an event. And during that event, we heard the Quran recitation for the first time. And when hearing the Quran's recitation, I cried so hard while hearing it. And I'm so sad that she's not alive to see me become Muslim and know that she's such a big part of the story. Because if it wasn't for her inviting me to the event and like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala using her, I would not be Muslim today, because I would never heard the Quran recitation for the first time like live in front of me. That is what made me slowly start my journey to Islam. What was the thing that pushed me to run and open up the Quran is the death of my cousin. I remember being at his funeral, listening to my family sing the Catholic songs, these traditional songs. Some of them I never heard before. My mom never taught me them growing up. And like my mom's singing them, and I'm like shocked that she knows these songs. But I just remember being there and like looking at the whole funeral process and seeing like how things are going and stuff like that. And I told myself, I said, I don't want to be buried this way. I don't. And I think I had like just a brief understanding of Islamic burials. But I said, I know I don't want to be buried the Christian way. And I know that Islam was something I'm always has been interested in. So why not me take the leap of faith and look up how to read the Quran, look up more stuff about Islam, and blah, blah, blah. And there starts my journey. And if you want to learn more about that, you can get my book called The Call, A Grenadian American's Journey to Islam, which should be coming out very soon, inshallah. Make dua for me. Make dua that it comes out good. Make dua that people read it and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not me. This is Future Brittany again. I just want to let you know that my book is out. You can get it on Amazon. It's called The Call, A Grenadian American's Journey to Islam. It's available right now on Amazon for $12.99. So please support me, alhamdulillah, and put barakah on this great accomplishment. But that is what made me want to become Muslim, is a funeral, because I looked at my cousin's funeral and was like, I don't want to be buried that way. So in retrospect, after I got the Quran and realized that, okay, like I can picture myself as being Muslim, let me dive deeper. One thing that I dived deep into was how Muslim funerals are. So I watched a video about like how to do the janazah prayer, and I was like, oh wow, they just do like, there's no like long ceremony, it seemed like, from what I saw online. So I looked up the janazah prayer. I would get more detail about what happens during the janazah prayer soon, like later on. And I also looked up the burial process and how the head has to be facing towards the Kaaba, and they're just buried with the sheet. There's no coffin, and they just put like some type of like wood or like some type of structure, not structure, but like a barrier in between the person and the dirt that's going to be going on them to prevent dirt from crushing down on them. And I was like, look how simple this is. It's just like you in a white bag, like in a white sheet, basically, going back to the Lord. And it's truly dust to dust, because there's no coffin in between you and the dirt. Your back side is literally like your back, your legs, your arms is literally touching the dirt, even though you're in a white sheet. But like the whole aspect of it and how you have to be buried within 3 days. So I learned that. I knew some of it, like the burial of the 3 days part, me into the whole death process of when it comes to Islam, is that you can still honor your loved ones. It is encouraged for you to visit them. They hear you. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives permission to certain people to hear their loved ones that come and visit them. You make dua for them and they will feel it in their grave. It's like you're still connected to your like ancestors before you, because you're making dua for them. You're doing stuff. You can build a well in their name. You can give Qurans in their name. You can build an orphanage or a masjid in their name. You can donate charity in their name with your intention, all for your loved one to pass away, to do it. There's people who go to Hajj for their loved ones who passed away, Umrah for their loved ones who passed away. And that whole aspect, I thought that was so beautiful. I was like, I never heard of anything like this, about how you're honoring someone even after they passed away. It didn't dawn on me that anybody could do this, that like this exists. And I was like, when I pass away, if I become Muslim, someone who loved me so much can do something on my behalf. Like, imagine somebody loving you so much that they donate, do Hajj, or just do anything on your behalf, make dua on your behalf, because they remembered you. And it's also encouraged for Muslims to go to the grave and to be reminded of where they're going to go. We're all going to pass away. And the fact that we're told, like Muslims are told to go visit the cemetery. Be reminded of where you're going. Be reminded that this will be your final resting place until Qiyamah, until the day of judgment. It's something that my brain can't even fathom before like learning about Islam. Like if somebody was to tell me this like right when I was like in the heart of going to church and stuff like that, I'd be like, wow, that's crazy. I don't even think that I would like find it beautiful. And that's how like, Allah's timing is perfect, because I just think about, would past Brittany even be able to fathom what she's like, the information and how beautiful that is, and how merciful Allah is to allow, even after you pass away with your bad deeds, people can still do good deeds on your behalf. Just that thought process alone. So that's what made me interested in Islam and made me have an interest into funerals. Well, no, let me rephrase them. So that is when I learned about Islamic funerals and how I found them beautiful, and how I knew that if I did my shahada, I will be okay with being buried this way. And even, one thing I forgot to mention is the washing of the body. The amount of care that goes into a person who's passed away, washing their body, making sure they're clean, putting oil on them, making sure they smell good, all of that. The intimate part of it, even though like the person has passed away, but if you are strong and you're like washing your mom's body, your dad, your brother, or so on, whoever's doing it, like the same gender washing the same gender type thing, right? Or your husband washing you, or husband washing their wife. The fact that you're doing the last act for this person besides like, making dua and all that stuff after they're in the ground, the last act for them before they go on the ground, and make this the process of washing the body, I thought that was so beautiful, because as a Christian, when your body's getting embalmed, we're so far removed from that. I don't even know what the embalm process looks like and stuff like that, like what goes with that. Funny story. I don't know if this is funny, but like I think it is. So I remember me being in Grenada, and my dad is like, hey everybody, we're going on field trips. So when we go to Grenada with my dad would take us on little adventures around the island. So he was like, we're going on a field trip, and I'm like, yay, field trip, because I always like it. We always go somewhere cool. We're driving, and I realize we're driving like past the cemetery. So I'm like, okay, that's strange, blah blah blah. Then we pull up to a funeral home, and I'm like, why are we at this funeral home? And he was like, hey, this is the field trip. This is where I used to work. The field trip was us getting a tour of the funeral home. And I am very thankful for that moment. Even though when I was a kid, I thought that was crazy. But I'm thankful for that moment, because I got to see where people get cremated, where they do like clean some parts of the body, not like fully, how they set up the coffin and all that stuff. But we didn't see the embalming process of anything. But I saw a little bit of that. And I just think about like how many people don't see that? How many people don't see that, or be like, oh my God, I would have been so scared. I would have been freaked out if I would have saw that. But knowing that that's going to happen to you. And why are you hiding from reality? It's going to happen to you. Your family will be paying for this process. Imagine you are putting money aside for a process that you don't even know what happens to you. Mind-boggling. But we went to the field trip, and that was our field trip. It was being a tour of the funeral home. Was I freaked out? Not really. I was just like shocked and like, why are we here? I found it to be very interesting about like the process of washing the body and stuff like that. And like, also we did see some like dead bodies there, obviously, because we're going to tour a funeral home. Just seeing the whole process was very interesting. But also to like know like also the prices of different coffins was also mind-boggling to me there. Obviously, we were there. It's a funeral home. We saw like the process of the dead and all that stuff, right? And it was definitely a beautiful experience, I would say. And it was an experience that I enjoyed, because I was a biology major before switching to public health, and just understanding the body and all that stuff like that, and just seeing like how the body looks like when you're passed away. I don't know, for some reason that was interesting to me as much as like, okay, but like this is a little freaky, like in the back of my mind. And ironically, the men who work in this funeral home, when they go to events, some people don't want to sit next to them because they work in a funeral home and they believe that they will bring death to them, like this type of superstition. And I think that is so crazy. You are more concerned about people who wash bodies, who are taking care of your loved ones in their final time, about bringing death to you. But are you not more concerned about the debt that you're bringing to yourself, like the way that you're living, that how if you die, like blah blah blah, like just the whole process. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say, but like the superstition of people who work in the funeral home. And then to become Muslim and see that like people who wash bodies are respected and treated the same way, like the same way like a normal Muslim would be. It's a very like honor thing to do because you're in the final resting place. There are signs that you will see that a person is going to Jannah or going to Jahannam. You will see that. So like you're respected if you wash bodies and you do funeral stuff. Like until I figured out who was the person who did funerals in my mosque, until like somebody said, oh, like so and so does it. I'm like, oh, him. And like I see how respected he's in the community and how many people, brothers, go up to him and be like, hey, how are you doing? Assalamualaikum, da da da. There's no like taboo with it. So the difference between like the Christian sense and like my culture sense and like the Islamic sense is very interesting. I don't know if there are some communities in the Muslim community that that is taboo, but I don't know. But it's something so interesting. So fast forward to after I became Muslim, watching videos online about, you know, the janazah prayer, washing the body. I will watch them like every so often to get a reminder of what the process is. So as you know, I have a book coming out, and a part of the book program is that I had to pick a select few people to read my book to see what they like, if they want more information, if they believe I should leave certain parts out, like that kind of whole thing. So I picked my friend Wasal to read my book, and after her reading my book, she asked me to be on her podcast. I can't remember if it was before or after she asked me to be on her podcast, but her podcast is called Ayat al-Nur. Make sure you go check it out. Check out my episode on her podcast, and she also is interviewed my podcast as well. Wait, go check out her podcast and then mine. I think I said it backwards then. I'm not too sure. But as I'm being interviewed on her podcast, she asks me, like, she tells me, like, it's so interesting to see that a funeral is what made you want to become Muslim. How was it like when you've been to your first Muslim funeral? And how was it like when you went to the Muslim cemetery? And I told her, I never been to a Muslim's funeral. I never been to a Muslim's janazah prayer, and I never been to a Muslim cemetery. And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, I never been. And she was like, okay, we have to go to the cemetery and like you have to go. It's going to be so interesting for you. And I'm like, yeah, I never been. And I'm like thinking to myself, like, it's crazy that like me watching the process of the Islamic funeral was okay with me, even though I didn't see it in person. But for some reason, it made me feel comfort. So I was like, yeah, I didn't go, I have never been. So we're like, okay, we have to schedule a day and we'll go to the Muslim cemetery. So we recorded that podcast that I said that I never been to a Muslim funeral or a cemetery on a Sunday. SubhanAllah, I was at my first janazah that Friday. I was so mind blown. I was like, what? I literally just said, I never been to a Muslim funeral. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, oh, you never been? You're saying that you never been, and like this is something that calls you to Islam? You're going to be in one in less than a week. This funeral was interesting because it's a funeral for an elderly woman, and it's on a Friday. So it's the funeral is happening after the first Jummah that they have. We have 2 Jummahs every Friday at my masjid. So it's happening at the first Jummah, so of course it's crowded. And it's required that if you hear a janazah announcement, for you to attend if you can, because you get the reward of attending and you're also giving people blessings who passed away, right? And think about it. Do you want to have an empty janazah? Do you want people not to show up for yours and like send blessings your way and pray for you and make sure that you have a good sending off? You know what I mean? So I attend my first janazah, and it happens to be the mother of somebody I know. SubhanAllah. So I attended, and I like made sure to look up a video on how to pray the prayer because I couldn't remember the steps. I never been to one. I'm like, okay, what happens? So I know there was 4 takbir. What I find interesting about the janaza, and also like to know that you don't bow to anybody but Allah. You're standing up for the first janaza prayer. There's no sujood, like when you see Muslims put their head on the ground. You don't do that, because why are you bowing down to the dead? You only bow down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we do the janaza prayer. It's in the lobby because we don't have the janazas in the musalla. And because it's Juma, I can't see what the body looks like because they have barriers to block you from seeing the men's side. So I just know that like I'm waiting for the imam to like go through the process. So he reminds us of what we have to do. So after the first takbir, you read Surah Fatah, which is the first chapter of the Quran. Then the second takbir, you read, I think it's called Salawat. I'm not 100% sure. I can't, like the name is leaving my mind. That's when you go, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kima sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Y'all, if I said it wrong, let me know, but be nice, okay? You do that, and after the next one, you make prayer for the person. After the third takbir, you make prayer for the person who passed away and the person's family. Then after the fourth takbir, we are told to like make dua for the community and blah blah blah. So we do that. Then everybody lines up to hug the family. What I did not know that I learned, and I don't know if it's just certain cultures that do that Islamically, but everybody I talked to said that their culture does it, is after a person passes away, you are supposed to go and be with the family, and then you bring them food, which was mind-boggling to me. It's like, so people are coming to the family's house and making sure they're okay, spending time with the family, offering their condolences, making sure the family is good, making sure they're well fed, making sure they don't need anything, which is the complete opposite of what I grew up with. Because the way I grew up with is, nobody really comes and visit the family per se. Like, I haven't seen it from the funerals that I've been to. I haven't visited the family. The only time I see the family is like at the funeral, and I send my condolences and I hug them and I tell them blah blah blah. After that, after they bury their loved one, they're supposed to now host a repast, organize the food, organize, like in my culture, the drinks, make sure there's a bar, make sure there's enough rum, make sure there's good music, make sure there's this and all that. And it's like, I'm the one who lost the loved one, and now I have to do all of that for people who also, like, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like crazy to think about. I never thought about it that way until like I learned this about Islam. It's like, it's crazy that I'm the one who is mourning a loved one. Now I have to do arrangements to make sure all the guests of the funeral are okay. And if the food is bad, people will talk about the food is bad. If there's not enough drinks, people talk about the drinks, blah blah. People talk about it, and it's like, you're bad mouthing a person's funeral when you're going to die one day, and somebody can be bad mouthing yours. Allahu Akbar. That was crazy to me. Another thing that I did find that was crazy about the Islamic ones, that is like a learning curve for me. There's no eulogy. There's nobody reading a eulogy. There's no one giving a speech about the loved one. And I feel like that is what I do miss about the Christian funerals, is that somebody's talking about the life of the person, and then loved ones are coming and talking about the person and their favorite memories and blah, blah, blah. So I do miss that aspect. But I feel like you can do that. I feel probably those things happen, like not a eulogy, but probably when you're talking about the loved one is when you go to the family's house. I've never been to the family's house, and I never been to the part where they put the body in the ground. Because sometimes they said they only want the family members, close family, to go to the burial with them. So of course you're going to respect that. So I never got to see that. This is future Brittany again. So ironically, at the time that I recorded this podcast episode, I said I'd never been to the house of a family member when their loved one has passed away to know what happens. Well, guess what? I recently went to a house where their loved one passed away back in their home country, and people were visiting them, and I went with two other ladies to visit the family. And I asked, what do you bring? This is my first time going to one. They said, oh, bring food, because you want to feed the family. And the family, when I arrived, they had tea, dates, and other little finger foods for us. And at the house, they spoke about the family member. So it's almost like they're giving a eulogy, telling you about their favorite memories, and then you're laughing, learning about the person and stuff like that. So I thought that part was beautiful because you're bringing food for the family. The family does have little drinks and little bites to eat for you, and you're just talking about the loved one, talking about life and so forth. And I really enjoyed it and thought it was really beautiful. And the thing is, like, you don't stay there long because other people are coming to visit. It's like an in and out thing that people are doing. So I did get to do that recently, which is so interesting. But yeah, I wanted to share that with you all. So that was my first janaza. We're going to the Wednesday, the following week, Wednesday. I am at my second janaza. Allahu Akbar. Ironically, I was at the mosque during Dur because most janazas take place after our second prayer of the day, Dur. So I'm praying Dur because I'm doing an event to like help make sure children are safe. We're at the janaza and it's more intimate. I don't know the family. You know, we're all lined up, blah, blah, blah. I see the family. We're doing it. And again, we're told what to do. First, after the first takbir, Surah Fatiha. Second takbir, salawat. Third takbir, prayer for the deceased and for the family. Fourth takbir, prayer for the community. And then I didn't stay to hug the loved ones because that mom's cry is a cry I'll never forget. I saw people cry for their 12-year-old. I saw people cry for my cousin. These were all young people, but this is the youngest funeral I've ever been to. And seeing how intimate it was, and only a few people were happened to be at Dura that time of the day on a Wednesday, and it was still an intimate funeral. Hearing that mom's crying, didn't know if I should hug her. I don't know her, so I was like, okay, I don't know like the social norms for this. So like, I stayed. I like gave my salams to people, and I went back to the event. And that was my second funeral, my second Muslim funeral. Then I think it's that Saturday that we go, or the following Saturday, me and Wasam meet to go to a Muslim cemetery. There's a new cemetery that was built in our area, which is way bigger, but it's new. She's like, this cemetery, it's full. We should go. Do you want to go to the new one or to the full one? I said, oh, I want to go to the full one because I get to see like what it looks like. We go to the full one, and it's so close to my house, which was like mind-boggling to me that like I literally lived like 10 minutes away from there, and I never knew this cemetery existed ever. We go there, and it's like on this like kind of like this farmland, like this family had like farmland, and they gave part of it to be part of a cemetery, like gave the land to bury Muslims. So I get there and I instantly think about how green it is. Another thing is, Muslims' funerals, there's not supposed to be no big tombstones. They're not supposed to be like these big concrete slabs, nothing like that. Because you're not supposed to show wealth and debt. We're all equal when we die. We're all on the ground. Your wealth, none of your monetary things are coming with you. So that's like why you don't have that. I think that's the major reason why, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that's what I heard on Shake TikTok from that. And I did hear other people mention it before. Like, there's no big tombstones. It's very simple. Just a plaque. Some people just have a marker so you won't lose the grave and so forth. I get there, and Wasal was like, like, they can hear you, da da da. And she's like, oh, I'll let you walk. I'll let you have your, like, moment to yourself. So I was like, okay, cool. I get there. I'm in a corner. I'm like, in my, like, personality fashion, I'm like, Assalamualaikum, everyone. My name is Brittany. This is my first time, like, at Muslim cemetery. I did my shahada so and so years ago. I'm here just to be reminded of where I'm going. As I'm making this speech, subhanallah, wind is blowing. A gentle wind, not enough to like rattle you and stuff like that, gentle enough. And I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be in this moment. I'm supposed to be reminded that this is how my grave is probably going to look one day. Like, this is what it's going to be like. So I'm walking around seeing how green it is, and ironically, right by the cemetery, there's this nice stream. So I just hear like this nice flowing water as I'm walking around, and I'm reading the tombstones, and I'm calling the people by their names, saying salam to them, making sure I'm not stepping on anybody's grave, because sometimes it's hard to mark where the grave is and stuff like that. And I just remember thinking about like how green it is. Not seeing so much concrete stuff, and like being able to see grass, being able to see wildflowers and all that. So it was nice doing that, and I'm just walking, and it's so peaceful. I never thought of a cemetery being peaceful and it just hitting you to remind you of where you're going. It's like I felt close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that moment. I don't think I ever been to a Christian cemetery and felt close to God until I became Muslim. Allahu Akbar. But I was there, doing my rounds, saying salams to every grave that had a name that I was able to read and stuff like that. And then I recognized some of the names from like some of the people in the community. I was like, "Oh, are you related to so and so? Oh, I know your daughter," or something like that. Blah blah blah. As we're getting ready to leave, I'm looking at one grave to my right, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't say my salams to this person who's buried here." I read the name, and my mouth drops. The lady who invited me to the event where I heard the Quran recited for the first time is buried in that cemetery. When she passed away, I didn't know what Muslim cemetery she was buried in. But can you imagine? The first Muslim cemetery I go to is the same one that she is buried in. And I was just thinking, when I was introducing myself and saying my name, I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed her to hear me. Because can you imagine that she did, who knows if she knew, right? Imagine getting that news because you did something. Somebody's now been a Muslim. And that person's first time in a cemetery is in the same place that you're buried in. Like, I couldn't fathom that. As soon as that, I'm like, oh my gosh, B. I'm like, I'm telling her about my journey. Like, it's because of you. I never got to tell you this. Blah, blah, blah. Because she passed away 2 years before I became Muslim. Almost like 2 years to the time around there. So she never got to see it. Never got to hear my story. But man, is she probably getting the rewards because her inviting me to that event is what made me be here. And may we be reunited in Jannah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive her of her sins. Ameen. I was just flabbergasted, if you want to say, that it's her. So I'm like talking to her like in front of her grave and just like speaking to her, blah, blah, blah. I go home and of course my mom knew that I was going here. And I said, "Mommy, I'm going there," and I'm telling her the story. I'm like, "You won't believe who grave you found." She was like, "What?" I'm like, "Bees." My mom like instantly started crying. Then I was like, "You know what? Let me take you there so we can go." So like my mom gets there and she's like hysterical, in no fashion. Caribbean people, the drama. But it was so cute for her to be there. It's also her first time in a Muslim cemetery. So I brought her there. The third time that I went, I brought my friend who's also a revert, and she's never been to any cemeteries ever. And we go. And again, I really don't know what I did to deserve this. Every time stuff like this happens, I'm like, "Yo, Allah, why did you choose me for this to happen to? Like, what did I do to deserve your mercy, your favor in this moment?" I'm speaking to the cemetery again, the people in the cemetery, and there's wind. And I'm like, where, like this, think about it. It's like, where's this wind coming from? Because there's no wind outside this. Every time me and her mentioned the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anything that had to do with Allah, wind came. As soon as we stopped mentioning it, the wind went away. I'm like, Allah, if that's not you, if that's not a testament for us being here. And we were just reminded, like, we're literally going to be here. Like, we literally converted to become Muslim. And this is like we're not going to be in this cemetery, obviously. We don't know where we're going to die, if it's even going to be in this state, in our community, blah, blah, blah. But just know that this is what our grave will look like. And from us being non-Muslims to now, it was just an eye-opening experience, And as I went home, I was thinking about like life. And ironically, a couple of months ago, I want to say maybe like late 2024 or early 2025, I'm driving, and I don't know, I was like in this weird, like, you're daydreaming and you're driving, which is very interesting. Like, how are you daydreaming and driving and not like crashing? But anyways, I'm like daydreaming and blah blah blah, and I'm like going to a class that's supposed to be like the remembrance of Allah, making sure that you're being the ideal self, how to have sincerity when it comes to Allah. So I'm going to a class. I'm like thinking about the class, thinking about what's gonna be talked today, like something like that, like thinking along those lines. As I look up from like back of where I'm thinking, there's a hearse in front of me. Never in my life have I drove and been near a hearse, and I'm behind it. And there's a coffin in it, and I'm just like, this is crazy. And I'm like, wow, look at Allah reminding me of where I'm gonna go. I'm going to a class to talk about Him, and I'm gonna be returned to Him. I'm gonna pass. Like, it was just like, I don't know how, like, if you get the connection I'm trying to make, but just like going to the mosque, listening to a lecture about Allah, there's a hearse, knowing that one day I'm gonna die, and like, where's my life, and like how this class has helped me better myself. And I'm literally going to this class to learn things and to hopefully, inshallah, have a good grave. You know what I mean? Be in peace in my grave, be in the good part of the barza. You know what I mean? So that was interesting. And as I'm thinking about all this stuff that's going on, what I'm thinking about after all this experience, I was like, okay, I have to do a podcast on this. This will be so cool. Then as I'm thinking about like how to do a podcast and maybe like a blog post, which I think I'm going to still do, inshallah, about my experience, I'm like thinking about like how to structure it and blah, blah, blah. Because usually I get my ideas like randomly when it comes to stuff like this. So, and I'm listening to nasheeds as I'm thinking about this. And the nasheed that plays is called Dust in My Bed, I believe. Yes, Dust in My Bed is by, hold on, let me pull it up. It is called Dust in My Bed, which is Farsi El Turab by Mishrai El Adrada, I believe. Y'all, forgive me if I butchered that. That song pops up, and I was like, not me thinking about how I'm going to structure my experience and the song that puts Dust in My Bed, a reminder. Then I've been putting off, like, recording this, like trying to come up with an outline, like I've been telling you. And I was like, okay, I want to do this like either this week or like the week that passes. I want to do it that week or this week. As I'm driving again, I'm at a roundabout and I'm waiting my turn. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I see another hearse and I'm like, what is this? Not me see, like, I don't even remember in my life, like driving past hearse unless I'm close to a funeral home, at a funeral, or like passing like a funeral home or going to a funeral. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a reminder. I need to get my life together and get this podcast out, because like, if what is going on here? So after this, I'm thinking about Christian funerals and all of that stuff. I actually go to a Christian funeral not too far after that. And again, I was reminded that, like, of course I was mourning the person and stuff like that, especially because I know the relative of the person and I'm mourning them. And I was reminded of the differences between the two again. What I would say is, after being there, I am so glad that I'm a Muslim and will have the burial that's right for me, right? I'm trying to think about every time I've been at a funeral, I have felt an immense form of discomfort. Not because like you're at a funeral and the person has passed away, just the whole religious part of the funeral did not make sense to me, did not make me feel comforted, did not like, oh, here's the word of God, blah, 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 this is what we're trying to do. The 2 times that I went to the janazas and heard the speeches of the janazas, it hit me. It made sense to me. Seeing how my body would probably be washed by watching the washing of a body on YouTube made sense to me. Knowing that even the janaza prayer is so short, you only do 4 takbirs and then you roll away, makes sense to me. the burial process of how you're in a coffin, you're just in a sheet with your back on the ground, dust to dust, basically, makes sense to me. Community members coming to your loved one's house to bring food to make sure your loved ones are okay makes sense to me. And hopefully your loved ones are talking about you, the funny stories, the crazy things you did, blah, 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 all that. All that makes sense to me. And I'm trying to think that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't call me to Islam and I got buried as a Christian, I don't think me being dead and watching the process happen would make sense to me. But here I am thinking that the simplicity of an Islamic funeral is the best thing that could happen to me. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps me steadfast in Islam, makes me work hard on my deen, makes me repent when I do sins, makes all my good deeds outweigh all my bad deeds, make me of the people who be reunited with all my friends and loved ones in Jannah. I'm just still thinking about like this whole process. I can't fathom this whole process that like a funeral is what made me run to read the Quran. Then me hearing the Quran in the first place is what made me have an interest in Islam. Then my first time at a Muslim funeral, cemetery, is me seeing the person who invited me to that event where I heard the Quran recitation. Me going to saying I'd never been to a janazah and then ended up going into 2 within the span of like 2 weeks. And then me thinking about how different they are. Muslim funerals to Christian funerals, and then going to a Christian funeral and then comparing the two. I'm like, oh, ya Allah, what is this? What is this realization you're sending on me? I still don't fully understand it. Maybe the listeners do. But I'm grateful for the experience. And it's something that I wanted to share because as reverts, we learn about Islam and stuff like that. But one thing that, again, that we're not really taught or like talked about in class, and I'm the one who's like bringing this up, is how to prepare for a janazah. So I remember in class, they were like, anybody has any questions? And I'm like, so when I pass away, who does my family call? Like, how do they get into contact with people? And they're like, oh, they call here, and then so-and-so sets it up, and blah, 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 and you go from there. And it made me think about, like, making a will and all that stuff. And I think that everybody hearing this, if you don't have a will or you're not thinking about having a will, tell your loved ones what you want. Make sure you have it in writing. Make sure you do the proper will part. I don't even understand the full process of a will. I'm still learning. And inshallah, my will be in place before I pass away. It's a reminder that we're all gonna die, and make sure you have this stuff in place, and make sure to the reverts, make sure that you have it in place so you are buried the Islamic way. Up to 3 days after you die, that's it. Most Muslims are buried the next day. Okay, so doing that and getting prepared for that. And it's something that I wanted to share with you because after that experience, I've been thinking about the grave a lot, reflecting on like the things I did that day, or like if I didn't think about it the day before, like thinking about reflecting on things I did, the good and the bad, and where I need to improve and what I need to repent for, and how much more I need Allah and how much more I need to get better. Every time I think of the grave, I think about bettering myself. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point for you to think of the grave, is to better yourself. And I learned about the Nasheed, Farsi El Torab. I think that's how you pronounce it. I know I'm butchering the name of it. It's because I watched Omar Suleiman talk to a guy who washes the bodies from Sydney, Australia. I feel like you guys who listen to Omar Suleiman will know who I'm talking about. His name is Ahmed Hirachi, I think that's how you pronounce it. He's from Sydney, Australia, and he washes bodies. And Omar Suleiman did like an interview with him and talked about his experience and blah blah blah. So I follow him on YouTube and not on Instagram. So of course I'm being reminded of like the death process and stuff, because every time it pops up, I'm like, oh yeah, there goes a Muslim version of how to like bury yourself. But it's also a reminder of where you're gonna go. I don't feel it as like a morbid thing. It's just a reminder, and also to see how young people were, how people old they were, and like how do you just be like, yo Allah, make dua for that person, because how you will want people to make dua for you, right? So I was watching their interview, and they talked about that song, the nasheed, about dust, called Dust in My Tomb, and that's where I learned Dust in My Tomb, and that's where I learned about it. And I think we'll end this podcast with playing a little bit of it. And that little part of those lyrics, hopefully you heard it good. So the lyrics of the song goes, dust is my bed. Oh, it's called Dust is My Bed, sorry. It has embraced me, and it's my cover now. The sand surrounds me, or basically dirt surrounds me. Even from over and above. So it basically goes like that. And I recommend people to listen to it on YouTube. But it's called Dust is My Bed. Sorry, I said Dust in My Bed. But that's the name of it. And I just want to share my reflections on my experience with the grave and my experience as a Muslim, and the difference between Christianity and Islam when it comes to the burial process, especially when it comes to what we do in my culture. I don't know what the lesson is of this podcast, what the moral to the story is, but I feel like the moral to the story is that we're all going to die. Think about death. Think about how you want to live your life, how you want to be remembered, how you want your Lord to remember you, how you want your Lord to look at you and look at the life that you live, and if you remembered your Lord and if you didn't. That's what I want you all to remember. Assalamualaikum. Warahmatullahi. Wabarakatuh.